We wish to see Jesus.
We wish
to see
Jesus.
Jesus. You may be seated this morning. Outside of just 2 seconds ago, when's the last time somebody came up to you and said, excuse me, please, can you help us? We wish to see Jesus. Of course, there are some presumptions that go along with that request. See, very first off, to start with, it means that you would have to actually get out there and get to meet some people, right? You know, you have to actually talk to people to get to know them. Maybe we need to start with our neighbors. Too many of us these days live anonymous lives. Well, sort of anonymous. We put all that information out there on Facebook. But if you ask somebody, what's your neighbor's name, they look and say, I don't know. I don't know who's there. We don't know anything else about them either. This week I had the opportunity to have dinner with a couple who lives in Hollywood. You know that part of Hollywood east of Young Circle? Out there, out towards the beach. Some of you were out that way just yesterday. And some of the houses there, I mean, Nancy and I used to love to walk there because there's some beautiful houses out that way. Can't afford any of them, but they're beautiful. And it's what I consider Old Town Hollywood. It's the old part of Hollywood. And there's a particular style among the houses there. And so when we were getting ready, we had dinner made, and the couple asked me, well, Pastor, would you like to have dinner inside here in our dining area, or would you like to go out with us on the front porch? Front porch? Who has a front porch? That doesn't exist anymore. Front porches died when they created something called air conditioning. Because the reason that you had a front porch was so that you could go somewhere after the heat of the day, in the cool of the night, to sit out there and enjoy the breeze coming by and cool down a little bit. And come on, how many of us still do that, right? There's no need to. What happens when you're out on the front porch? Your neighbors go by. People go by and what? Well, in the wrong part of Hollywood. Maybe you're sweating bullets, but there's somehow hopefully a breeze. But what else happens? People come by. And you get to know the Smiths and the Joneses and everybody else who's walking by. You get to know something about their lives. But when front porches died out, nobody had as much reason to get to know their neighbors anymore. In fact, do any of you know what has taken over the front porch as the predominant feature of our homes? It says something about our time. Not the backyard in the front of the home.
The garage.
Not the TV room either. I heard it back here.
The garage.
The garage.
Yeah.
The garage is a prominent feature in most houses now when you come from the sidewalk. That's the first thing you see. In fact, it's not a one-car garage, it's a two-car garage. Or these days, maybe it's a double-car garage and a third-car garage, because you can have somewhere to put the RV or the boat, right? And what happens when we come up to our garage, right? I mean, about half a block away, right? We're reaching for the remote, pressing the button. The moat to our private castle opens up. We bring our ship of sail into the garage. We press the button again, and it closes. No need to see or meet anybody, let alone talk to them or find out their name. Tell me I'm wrong. That's the way it happens. There's no interaction anymore. So the first presumption, if you're going to ask somebody, I want to see Jesus, or if somebody asks you, is you have to get to know them. Well, even beyond that, they not only have to get to know you, they have to know something about you. Because if they don't know that you're a Christian, why would they bother to ask? How many of us really take the time to let people know who we are in the depth of our hearts? Huh? Lutherans don't like to share that much of anything too openly. It might seem presumptuous. It might seem like Jim, what did we hear? It might seem like works, wouldn't it? We heard yesterday constantly at the visitation with the bishop. And so we need people to actually know who we are so that they can know something about us, so that they can even have a reason to ask us to see Jesus. But the hard truth is, a lot of times we're not giving them any reason to want to ask us about who this Jesus is, that they would want to see Jesus in us, because we're not giving them any reason. So how likely is it that somebody will come up to you if you're thinking none of this makes it sound like it's too likely? You're probably right. Outside of school and work, which is probably the most places where we know people or interact with people, where we have a level of interaction and they get to know something about who we are, but we control that, right? Who would know if we stood for anything in life? And to top all of that off, these days, people are much less likely to think anything positive about us if they know that we are Christians. Yesterday at the Lenten visitation, Pastor Lou Forney, I hope you've heard his name a few times before because I keep mentioning him as the new pastor at Christ Church, but also as the person who's been my mentor for the last couple of months and continuing. He was presenting a workshop on discipleship. And he shared some great information with us. And he got it from this wonderful theological source that is available to everyone online. Does anybody know what it is? Besides Jim. Anybody know what the greatest theological source is that where people turn to these days?
Google.
You got it. Google. And all the information he had to share with us is from Google. Do we get information anywhere else these days? In fact, if you look at the picture of the grain of wheat on the front bulletin, cover of your bulletin, guess where that came from? A Google search. Okay. And so he went on, I'm getting comments here, that's good. He went on to talk to us about something that Google has called predictive technology. Do you know what predictive technology is? You may not know of it as a term, but every time you do a Google search, you start typing, and it says, oh, I think I know what you're looking for. You haven't even finished the first word yet, and it predicts what the rest of it is that you're going to say, that you're going to ask, because it knows what people are asking. And it's dead on accurate most of the time. That's scary.
80%.
Is it 80%? That's pretty high. That's pretty high. So, what do you think happens when you type in the phrase, why are Christians so... fill in the blank. What do you think comes up? Well, if this works, I've got a quick video to show you here. Doesn't matter if you can't hear it, but try to see. That's the A word. C word. I heard that uncomfortable chuckle when it comes up. Why are Christians so un-Christ-like, so un-Christian? It hurts to see that, doesn't it? To see how the world looks at who we claim to be. So I wrote in my sermon here, wow and ouch. And of course it's easy for us to say, well, that's some Christians, it's not Lutherans, you know. I mean, we're not out there offending people and being rude and arrogant, right? And yet if you look at the numbers of people who are in the Lutheran Church, it's been dropping by the millions since the 60s. Literally by the millions. Pastor Lou suggested to us yesterday that we have a few possible solutions. So I'm going to share with you the three that he shared with us. He says, number one, and I'm so proud of this congregation because we could actually do this. Number one, we need to identify someone in our congregation who knows somebody who works at Google. And Rob, Audrey, I think that's your son, right? And all we need to do is call him and get him to change the search results. All right? So, thank God we actually have somebody here who can make that happen. Right? Is that very likely? No. Okay. Well, suggestion number two, we can edit the scriptures. You know, the scriptures are just so bothersome sometimes. And instead of Matthew 28 saying, go and make disciples, maybe you could change it to something like, stay and be nice church members. Wouldn't that be comfortable? Well, maybe that doesn't work either. So maybe number three is a solution to think about. Maybe we can get serious about being followers of the teacher. Maybe we can learn what the scriptures actually are saying to us. Maybe we can hear how Jesus is asking us to live our lives and what our lifestyle could be like. And then we could change our lifestyles so that people would want to say, I want to see Jesus because I see Jesus in you. They want to see the Jesus that is in us. Now, to get to that, we may have to give up something. And you know what? Today I want to tell you that it's probably, even in the season of Lent, not coffee or caffeine or chocolate. You know, the things that people tend to say we're going to give up for Lent. You know, those things, do they hurt us? You know, I mean, yeah, I want some coffee, yeah, I want some chocolate, but really? Come on. But the things that we need to give up are much more serious. What it is in your life, you have to discern. Whatever it is that you know that you need to give up because it's keeping you stuck where you are. Because what Jesus says is that what we have to do is be like that grain of wheat. To fall into the ground and die. So that new life can come out. Dying is not easy. Even Jesus said, what should I say? Father, let this time pass me? No, this is what I came for. This is what we're here for. Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground and is dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts forth and reproduces itself many times over. And in the same way, Jesus said, anyone who holds on to life as it is right now destroys that life. We want to hold on to what we have, but Jesus said, by doing that, we destroy what we have. But if we let it go, if we are reckless in our love, reckless in spreading the seeds, then Jesus says you'll have it forever, real and eternal. Two quick examples, two stories, and then we close. Number one, I participated in OTY with the Chamber of Commerce this week. And I have to give a shout out, Linda. I have to give a shout out. When I first came here to Living Faith, Linda asked the question in the council meeting, so Pastor, are you going to join the Chamber of Commerce? And I'm like, the what? I mean, I've heard of it, but join it? Really? It's the best thing I ever did. I have gotten to know more people in the community than I ever would have without doing that. So thank you, Linda, for pushing me on that. You didn't know you were pushing me, but you were. OTY was Operation Thank You. And so what happened was that about 30 members, like ourselves, myself, members of the Chamber of Commerce, we went to the office of the Chamber and we picked up packages, little gift bags with some goodies in them, and a new directory from the Chamber of Commerce, you know, and every member's name, including Living Faith, is in there twice, once alphabetically and once under churches. And there we are as members of the Chamber of Commerce. And we went out and delivered them. So we all got, they told us 13 to 15 visits that we'd make. I got a package and guess what? It was 23 visits. I said, how did I manage that? And it was hot out there this week. But I managed to grab a package that started from Whole Foods and came on all the way up to about 172nd to Goodwill Pharmacy. That was my last visit. And all the members of the Chamber of Commerce in between there, I got to meet them all. And I got some wonderful receptions. I even got to go into Baptist Health, which if you don't know, it's right there over behind Costco where we all go to church after church. And I went in there to meet Karen Holmes. Is she the director? Is that right? And I know Karen because I met her at breakfast. So I said, oh, this could be a fun visit. But guess what? She wasn't there. And I said, well, okay, we'll leave a package for her. But in the meantime, is Tracy Thompson here today? Because I happen to know that Tracy works at Baptist Health. In fact, that's why we've had a bulletin insert about their Zumba and yoga classes, because Tracy shared it with us so that people could go. It's free, by the way. And so they said, oh, yeah, she's out there. I said, don't tell her who it is. They said, well, we can't. By law, we have to tell her who's out here. I said, okay, let her know. She was with somebody, but as soon as she finished, she came out. Boy, did I get a great reception. I mean, it was just so wonderful. And of course, you know, I told you this was on Tuesday, so it was what day? St. Patrick's Day. And there I was wearing just these olive green pants, which are hardly, you know, green, and nothing else that was green, and I was in trouble because I found out that Tracy is the one who brings the spirit to that place. And everybody had shamrocks and all kinds of necklaces and things, and they told me, that's all Tracy. She's the one who brings that. She's there sharing the faith about Patrick, the bishop and missionary to Ireland with everybody, and I walked out of there with a green necklace on, so the rest of my visits I was covered. So she's out there sharing her faith and what God has given her, and I just, you know, I've never done, in 20 years almost of ministry, I've never done a member work visit. I've never visited somebody at their place of work. And it was a joy. It was, and you didn't know I was coming, right? So you didn't have time to get in your best behavior for the pastor, but it was a wonderful time. You see, that's what we need to be about. We need to be there and blessing and supporting each other in the work and ministry that God has called us to do. Because it's not all about what we do here on Sunday morning. It's what we do when we go out of here on Sunday morning. So, one more story. This week at our new members class, Michelle and Daniel, well, Daniel wasn't at the members class, but Michelle shared with me, you know, they're doing a fundraiser for the Homeless Foundation, the Homeless Voice. You remember them? They're the ones who pass out the newspapers on the street and ask you for a donation. Did you know that they also have a food kitchen? And it's over in Hollywood. And Michelle and Daniel are doing a fundraiser on crowdsource? No.
Yeah.
It is crowdsource.
Crowd.
It's in your bulletins this morning, folks. And she didn't want me to put it in the bulletin or share it with the church. You know why? Because the run is on April 19th. Go check your calendars. Yes, you're right. It's a Sunday. And she says, and how can we compete? How can I do something like that on a Sunday when we should be here? And I says, no. How can you not do it just because it's a Sunday? How can you not make a public witness of your faith to say, we care? Because, you know, they're not just raising money. They know these people. They know their hearts. They know their names. They know their stories. Men and women who would be out on the street otherwise because they've been serving there. They've been doing that. That's been part of their faith. They've been extending themselves. And you know what? I think when we do that, we should acknowledge that. In fact, so the Sunday before